Alright everybody, if you watched the last video, we are ready to finally start this. So this is going to be the first try that we have on starting this. So to recap, we've got everything put back together that it needs to run. We still have the cooling system and things like that, but I want to give it a try before I go too much further, just to make sure that this $200 engine runs. So I primed it and it's ready for its first try. I've got a jump pack on it just in case. So I'm going to turn that on and I'm going to give it a go. Alright, so as you guys can see, I started it that first time, shut it off immediately to give a quick look over. So far so good. I started up the second time, I let it kind of catch itself for 5-10 seconds and it ran pretty good. So now the final part has arrived. I noticed here that there was kind of a chip in the pulley for the power steering, so I'm going to get a new one of those on there, and then we could start putting on the exhaust, the cooling system, and get this thing back together. So I feel pretty confident that it's going to run well. So I'm going to move forward with the build now that we've gotten a chance to test it out. So let's get the rest of this back together and hopefully we can get it on the ground and test drive it. So I've got the new pulley in. You could see on the old one, this chunk was missing, so didn't want to risk that shredding a belt or anything, even though I have the crank guard on. Just wanted to save myself some work in the future. So that one is aluminum versus this one is plastic, so that should last the lifetime of the car. Alright, so I think we're finally ready to put the front clip back on. So got the charge pipe in, we got the intercooler piping in. Everything's kind of loose so I can fit in the intercooler, but got all the coolant hoses on. We've got the AC condenser back on. We've got the power steering cooler back on. So I'm going to just slide on the front clip and we can start the final assembly on this. Alright, so I got the radiator in, I got the radiator fan, I've got the charge pipe hooked up. The only thing left is to fill with coolant, put the intake on and the intercooler. So I'm going to get the intercooler and the intake on since I don't have any distilled water to mix with the coolant. And then once I get that in, I can run to the store and get some distilled water, and then we'll give it its actual first startup. Alright, so I think everything is done. We've got the dual cone intake. I went with blue over red because I think it'd look better with the silver. But we've got all the coolant hoses hooked up, I believe. We've got the charge pipe torqued down. And we've got the intercooler. I don't know if you can see the intercooler, but the intercooler's in there. I got it off of eBay, so I had to wrestle with it. But yeah, I think we're ready to fill with coolant and bleed the system. Once we do that, I think we could start it up and let it get to temp. So I'm going to do that now. Alright, so now that it's full of coolant, we can start the bleed process. So put your key in the ignition, foot off the brake or the clutch, start it, and then you're going to want to go max temperature on heat, lowest fan speed, and then hold the gas pedal down for 10 seconds, and then you'll hear the water pump kick on. So you can hear it running. It'll turn on and off periodically, but you'll probably want to turn on a battery charger and let it run. It's probably going to go for 10 or 15 minutes, but once it's done, you can top it off with coolant and you should be done. All right, so the coolant's all bled, battery's charged, so I'm going to give it a proper start. So let's see what happens. The smoke must have been something, it's kind of left over, maybe coolant spill or whatever. Slowing down, it looks like it's very faint, so I'm just gonna let it idle and get to temp and see what happens. All right, so I restarted it and let it idle for a while, and the smoke that was coming from this side actually turned out to be the oil that was coated on the turbos and the downpipes. So after I let it idle for a little while and get up to temp, the smoke went away and it ran perfectly. So pretty happy with where it's at. I feel good about putting the bumper and the fender liners and everything back on. So I'm honestly super proud of myself. So shout out to me for putting this whole build together. Shout out to me for buying this car. Shout out to me for doing the rod bearing. Shout out to me for putting it back together. And shout out to me for cleaning everything along the way. So next up, we are going to do the oil catch can. So look forward to that in the next video, and we'll put together the rest of the front end. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button, drop a like on the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. I'm just really trying to show you love. Say you tired.